Today we'll be reacting to why I still use Windows 7 in 2020. As you all know, I uploaded this video almost 2 years ago, and I wanted to revisit it to see if my opinion has changed, what I still stand by, has Windows 10 changed over time compared to what it was in this video, has Windows 11 changed my opinion, and all that stuff. So, without further ado, let's get straight into it. These headphones look really good on me, by the way. Alright, let's go ahead and full screen the video, and let's get started. Why are you running Windows 7, lol? So, why do you still run Windows 7? Also, is that Windows 7? I admire your bravery. And his main OS is Windows 7. Why are you using Windows 7 2020? Windows 7? Okay, back when I made this video, before I made this video, I had a couple of other videos. A lot of people noticed that I was using Windows 7 on my main machine. I was getting a ton of, especially when my channel was growing a lot, I was getting a ton of comments asking me why I still use Windows 7. It's out of support. What are you doing? So I was like, I'm just gonna jumble that up in the beginning of the video. It was pretty funny. There was actually a lot more comments than what I showed in this video. This was just a little bit. This operating system is really old. So old, in fact, that support ended for it almost 9 months ago. And I'm pretty sure there are some younger viewers out there that are actually younger than Windows 7 itself. It's still pretty funny. But me, on the other hand, I actually still use it. That's kind of weird. Why haven't I moved on to a more modern operating system? Well, let's talk about my possible alternatives. First up, Windows 8.1. Now, I actually use Windows 8.1 on my Surface Pro 3, and I think it runs exceptionally well on a device like this. It has a touch screen, and I can fold it into a tablet, and I think this is one of the best operating systems you could put on a device like this. I still do stand by this opinion. Maybe we'll cover this when I, at some point, react to why I still use Windows 8.1 in 2020, but in summary, I still think Windows 8.1 is even one of the best operating systems for a tablet. Even better than Windows 11 in my opinion. However, I'm talking about my desktop computer with a keyboard and mouse without a touchscreen monitor. And for a device like that, yeah, Windows 8.1 just doesn't make sense at all. First up, I'm just dishing out money for 3 more years of support, so after 3 years, I'm gonna have to go through this whole process all over again. Secondly, the start screen is just bad on a desktop computer. Elements are so big in the start menu that it's just not an intuitive experience for keyboard and mouse users. And I could do some readjusting to Windows 8.1 to actually make it work well, but it just takes away from the cleanliness of the operating system. Okay, I remember this part. I don't know why taking away the cleanliness of an operating system. You literally just need a start menu program. It's still kind of annoying that Microsoft didn't put in a start menu into it and stuff to just solve this big issue that Windows 8.1 had. I don't think it, if you installed classic shell or start as back or anything, I don't think it takes away the cleanliness of the operating system. I even put in black text. Not really. I second guessed myself. I really did over exaggerate that part. It's just installing a single program. And because it's so underused, when programs stop supporting Windows 7, it's probably going to stop running on Windows 8.1 as well. And yeah, we're seeing the effects of this happening right now. For me personally, I use a program called Dolphin Emulator to emulate Wii and GameCube games. And recently, I read an article that was talking about them ending support for Windows 7. But they also mentioned that they were ending support for Windows 8, even though Windows 8 support hasn't even ended yet. So we're definitely seeing the effects of this happen right now. And so I'm pretty happy that I said this. I just don't want to spend money for 3 more years of support and less program compatibility in the future. And yeah, I do still stand by these points. I'm happy that I didn't upgrade to Windows 8.1. We're seeing most of the effects of this already happen. Windows 8.1 support is ending soon. There's already programs that are ending support for it early, even before its end of support. So I do still think Windows 8.1 was not a good option for me at that time. I'll talk more about Windows 10, but what about macOS? Well, macOS basically needs entire new hardware to actually function properly, and if I didn't want to buy new hardware, I really don't want to go through the process of support and limited program compatibility, and also I just don't like the UI of macOS that much. Now, Linux... Okay, I remember, I didn't get hate for this. I kind of just got some negative comments, people just getting a little bit upset that I didn't really talk about Linux in depth. I did put a comment, I think people are mad at me because of Linux. And I just gave a little small explanation that I think Linux is good for the right people, it just wasn't for me. Just a little funny thing to add there. Windows 10 is the only logical alternative, however, it just doesn't live up to the standards that Windows 7 had. Welcome to a segment I like to call Trashing on Windows 10 because I'm a terrible person. Yeah, when I made this video, I kind of had a lot of biases. Nowadays, I try and keep my biases out of the way unless we're making opinionated videos like this. But even for opinionated videos, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna trash on Windows 10. Like, I don't do that anymore. But I did definitely have this aggressive tone toward Windows 10 and my biases really got in the way. So I'm kind of glad that I changed over time and not really using this tone. But we're reacting to it, so let's see what I have to say from 2 years ago. First up, blower and ads. Oh, you install a fresh new copy of Windows 10? Oh, we'll go into the start menu to check out our free apps like Candy Crush Soda Saga. And while you're there, check out our other great third-party apps. For an operating system that markets itself with the phrase get things done and that it helps you focus, I find this really obnoxious that there's storage being filled up with really unnecessary ads and bloatware. And every time I uninstall these apps, I feel like they reinstall themselves again every single time. I think people misunderstood me when I was saying they reinstall themselves every single time. Every new feature update that Windows 10 came out with, I did experience this. Bloatware would just reinstall itself. With that being said, I don't think it was as big of a deal as I was making it out to be. You can simply uninstall the apps. After 6 months, just uninstall. It takes like 3 minutes to uninstall all the apps. I don't think it's that big of a deal, so I'm kind of more against this now. We even see this on Windows 11 and other platforms, so I don't think it's that big of a deal anymore. Windows 10 also has a very bland UI with very flat and inanimate elements. Windows 7 has the advantage of Windows Aero, and Windows 8.1 does have a similar UI, but it's much more colorful and alive, especially considering live tiles are flipping all the time and not like every 2 minutes on Windows 10. A lot of this could be fixed, by the way, if it wasn't for Windows 10 breaking themes all the time. Yeah, and I still do stand by this opinion. I do think Windows 10 has a pretty underwhelming UI for a modern version of Windows. It's inanimate, it's bland, and just is a personal preference. I just don't like it. In regard to the themes, though, I used to use Windows 10 a lot for themes. Like, a lot. Mostly because of the bland UI for me. But every single time I uploaded... What? Every single time I updated to a new version of Windows 10, themes would completely break. Things would become unresponsive. The whole entire operating system would freeze. It was a gigantic mess. It was horrific. Nowadays, though, Windows 10 doesn't really have this issue because it's in its extended support phase, so you're not really seeing any new UI changes or big feature updates. I mean, Microsoft still calls them feature updates, but they're not really feature updates. Here's a big one. Terrible quality feature updates. I feel like every single time a feature update was released, we were just talking about this, has to break, whether it's a program refusing to run properly, to the entire operating system just being a garbled mess. This was one of the biggest reasons why I actually downgraded to Windows 7 back when I used Windows 10 from 2015 to 2017. However, on top... Yeah, there's nothing really to say there. But there was other issues. A lot of people suffered with other issues. I remember there was some news about how some people updated to a new version of Windows 10 and some people's files would be randomly deleted. So it wasn't just me. There was a lot of people experiencing problems with feature updates. On top of that, there's also many inconsistencies and duplicate programs, which is one of the most controversial things about Windows 10. And you know what? I'll keep this short. Different right-click menus, different setting control menus, different paint programs, and the list goes on. There's so many duplicate programs and inconsistencies in Windows 10 that it just boggles my mind that they didn't fix this yet. I just noticed that this chapter is called Windows 10 is bad. Again, with the aggressive tone I had. Alright, so let's address this point here. This hasn't changed in the past 2 years. Windows 10 is still like the same level of inconsistency I'm seeing, and it's still the same. I still do think this is a big deal, don't get me wrong, but you can simply disable most of these programs. Like Internet Explorer you can disable, you can uninstall Groove Music, or you can disable Windows Media Player. You can uninstall Paint 3D if you want to. Like there's some flexibility here. Again, I do still think this is a pretty bad thing for Windows 10. It's a lot better in Windows 11. I'll definitely say that Windows 11 definitely handles this issue a lot better. It's still not perfect. Because of my tone, I wasn't really talking about like you could just simply uninstall them and stuff. There's also the in-your-face aspect of Windows 10, including it begging you to upgrade to the latest version, sometimes without the user's consent. Oh my god, I remember this. I remember when like there was this thing called Windows 10 Update Assistant or Upgrade Assistant or something. It would just install an update for you without asking you. It would just install the update, you would restart your computer, and you're suddenly on a different version of Windows. On top of the feature updates breaking things, on top of themes breaking for feature updates, this entire chemistry gave me the worst Windows 10 experience. And I don't know if I was unlucky or something, but it was horrific. And I kept trying to uninstall this app, this upgrade or update assistant, whatever it's called. It would randomly reinstall itself. It was the worst thing ever. I remember even to this day, it was the most annoying thing ever. Nowadays, they fixed this. It's not that big of a deal anymore. But back when I used Windows 10, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. And if you don't know what you're doing during setup or post installation, you'll sometimes be forced to use a Microsoft account no matter what. I'm pretty sure in an update last year, they actually removed the ability to create an offline account during setup, and that really annoyed me. Okay, well, this isn't even the right menus, but but yeah, this is still an issue. I still think this is pretty annoying. It's not an issue. Like, Microsoft is doing this obviously on purpose. And the newer update of Windows 11, maybe 22H2, I think they're doing this in 22H2. Even for professional versions of Windows, they're going to remove the offline account option. So they're going to make this even more annoying. A bunch of other users. There was a workaround to it, but it just boggles my mind that they're trying to force this into the user no matter what you do. And sometimes people don't want to use a Microsoft account, but Microsoft is shoving it in their throats no matter what. And there's also suggestions everywhere throughout the operating system whenever you're doing something, but I'm pretty sure there's a way to disable that via setting. Yeah, I don't even know why I said this part. That was the most unnecessary thing. Like, if you can turn it off, then why did you say it's bad? Windows 10 is also a lot less stable and smooth compared to its predecessors, especially if you're using older hardware and for those using a mechanical hard drive instead of an SSD. Which, yes, I use a hard drive because I need more storage. I feel like this also has something to do with feature updates being released twice a year with little okay. I still do say that Windows 10 is pretty poorly optimized for a hard drive, for a mechanical hard drive, and I still do stand by this. What I don't agree with here is how I just put the SSD aside. And I was being really closed-minded. I was like, well, yes, I use a hard drive because I need more. So, like, you can put, like, extra hard drives. You can upgrade to an SSD. It's really easy. I wasn't really thinking about it at a practical level. And yeah, some people even got upset at me. Like, bro, it's just like a 256 gigabyte SSD. Just put it into your computer and stuff. And yeah, I do understand the point people are making here. I agree with this opinion. I just wish I addressed the SSD part. And I was a little bit more open-minded to that. Optimization from both Microsoft's side, as I've stated before, and the program developers' side, because they now need to update their programs for newer versions of Windows 10, depending on how the update affects their programs. However, because the updates are being released twice a year, the cycle happens all over again in the span of about 6 months. Windows 10 nowadays, you don't really need to worry about this. With a combination of desktop and tablet UIs, there are times when some elements are just so big in Windows 10 that it just doesn't make sense for mouse and keyboard users, like the settings app being big and spaced out, the calculator buttons being larger, File Explorer menu bars being bigger, and so on. Windows 8.1, in my opinion, I don't think Windows 10's approach to tablet and desktops, the mix of it, I don't think it was a good approach. But the examples I gave were pretty bad. Like File Explorer, the calculator, like, come on. Actually, I would say the calculator is even better than before. Does keyword most of this differently because it tries to separate desktop and touch. The touch is in the start screen with all your apps, and the desktop part is in the desktop app. So everything you'd want to do with the keyboard and mouse are found in the desktop app. Still agree with that. Windows 10 instead tries to combine all these elements into one, and it just doesn't work well. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. I hated the tablet one in Windows 10. Like, I just didn't like it. Oh yeah, and Cortana is basically useless. Wow, that was kind of mean, actually. You're funny. She's mostly useful in a mobile environment when I'm in a hurry and I need to do something quickly. And I feel like this is where virtual assistants thrive. I miss it still. But in this case, I'm sitting down and taking the time to finish my work, so she's kind of pointless to me. There are some useful features to Windows 10, like extra desktops, but The cons outweigh the pros for me. Windows 10 just feels incomplete and not yet matured, so I just don't feel like this is justifiable. Yeah, even now, I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking like, if I was in Windows 7 or if I was in Windows 8.1 and Windows 10 was an option for me or Windows 11 was an option for me, I'm just thinking on the back of my head like, why should I even upgrade in the first place? Let's put security updates aside for a second. Like, what like features do they offer that make me want to go like, yeah, Windows 10? Like, there's nothing like, maybe from a Windows 8.1 user, you're like, yay, start button is back. But let's say you're on Windows 7 and you're looking at Windows 10 and you're like, okay, there's an app store. And I'd have to deal with all of this for what? Security updates? Which brings me to why Windows 7 is just better. And I'll try to skim through this section a little bit quicker, but Windows 7 is just much more stable, quicker, and smoother, no matter which hardware you're on, whether it's newer or older, or if you're using an SSD or a hard drive. It's also less in your face all the time. It actually just lets you get things done without any disturbances, and you're not being begged to use a Microsoft account or update the operating system all the time. It's way more consistent than Windows 10, and it's much more reliable as well, meaning that nothing breaks after an update all the time. There's also no bloatware, like the preloaded programs are actually useful. Like seriously, Windows accessories are basically all I need preloaded. Why do I need Candy Crush Soda Saga preloaded with Windows 10? It also has hands down the best start menu of all time. Like, it's so simple and yet so useful at the same time. Yeah, I still do think Windows 7's start menu was the best. It's very close to Windows 11 though. I barely have to do any modifications to have a good user experience. And also, just as a side note and a bonus fact, that Windows Aero Glass Transparency is like the best thing ever. It looks so good. The OS is also designed for keyboard and mouse users, so element sizes make sense and it's faster for me to do certain tasks. In my eyes, Windows 7 was basically the final version of Windows to add some actual useful features just like Vista and XP. And afterward, other just change major parts of the Windows formula for better or for worse. And this brings... Okay, so for the majority of that segment, I did agree with most of those points. I don't know if they warranted like security, like if it was worth like risking your security, but I think we're going to talk about it soon, like why the security updates aren't a big deal for me. Brings us to the final point of this video, which everyone's been waiting for. Am I worried about my security? No. I made a Windows 7 survival guide video back when Windows... Find my points. Web browsers are still up to date, antiviruses are still up to date, the majority of other programs are still up to date, and we have brains. Windows Update is not only just one layer of security, but it's honestly the last layer of security because all the other factors I just mentioned basically supplement this lack of security updates, and they're the first layers that viruses go through before they get to Windows Update and Windows itself. And besides, this operating system was last updated in January of 2020. Yeah. Unless we were in the early 2010s or the late 2000s, most vulnerabilities at this point have been found, and currently, the chances of getting hacked, supported or unsupported, is slim. Now, if I was using this operating system 5 years later, then yeah, this would be a big issue. If my programs are up to date, I'm okay with living without updates. The reason why people don't use XP and Vista anymore is not just because of security updates, but because programs are out of support, which is a much bigger security risk than Windows Update. I'm not encouraging that everyone just starts using out-of-date operating systems. This is just a personal preference, and I'm just not quite ready to make the transition to Windows 10 yet. So after watching the security aspect of this video, I'm kind of left in a gray area, because for me, it's not as simple as saying I agree or I disagree. So let's first address this layers thing I was talking about. I'm aware that even if you have the most up-to-date web browsers, if you have the most up-to-date antivirus, if you have the most up-to-date programs, of course, there is still a chance of being infected on Windows 7. It's not like these three factors alone will make you completely secure on Windows 7. I understand that completely. But the question is, how much higher of a risk is it living without Windows Update? Because here's the thing with risk. It's not as simple as saying there's a 25% chance more that you're going to get infected with the virus. It's not as simple as saying that, because there's a bunch of different factors you need to consider here. How tech savvy are you? How careful are you online? What is your use case? Because there's so many different factors you need to consider here. And here's the thing, even if you're on more modern versions of Windows, like Windows 8.1, 10, and 11, all these supported versions of Windows, there's still a risk that you can get infected and you can get viruses and you can get malware and all this stuff. The question is, how much more risky is it living without Windows Update? How long are you going to live without Windows Update? How many security updates are you actually missing out on? Because here's something that bothers me a little bit, is that once a version of Windows goes out of support, like Windows XP, Vista 7, and people start making videos and posts about it, which is fine. People can do that to raise awareness and stuff. But there's some people, not everyone, but there's some people who act like right after the date of end of support, it's the end of the world. Like you're gonna lose your bank account information, your files are gonna be deleted, your computer's gonna explode. Probably not that part. But at the same time, I also understand that people need to hear that urgency so they can take action seriously and they don't like start being super careless about it. So it's just a game of risk. How much risk did I want to take? And guys, I said this in the video already. Maybe I wasn't serious enough, but please don't install unsupported operating systems just because Mr. TrigrZolt did. This is a personal thing. This is not a recommendation by any means whatsoever. If you want a recommendation from me, I would just say stay with Windows 10 or 11. Stay up to date. Stay secure. Don't do this. So yeah, let's get back into the video. But what does the future entail for me? I've been keeping up to date on Windows 10 over the past year or two using Windows 7, and I have to say that Windows 10 is finally maturing properly. Things are starting to look like they're in the right place now, even if nothing is perfect. I've also started using a Microsoft account more and more on my phone and my Surface Pro 3 running Windows 8.1, so Windows 10 is starting to become a more appealing option to me. I might be upgrading to Windows 10 sooner or later, maybe in a month or two once the next version 2009, finally comes out. However, for the time being, I think I'll stick with Windows 7 and wait for a few more things to be ironed out. And that is exactly why I still use Windows 7 in 2020. So I still agree with this last point. Windows 10 has gone a lot better over the years. In fact, after reflecting on this video, I would even say that during this video's upload date, I would say that Windows 10 was already in a good spot. It's just that because of Windows 10 2017, 2018 PTSD, that I just couldn't accept it. So rewatching the video after 2 years, I definitely think there were some points I agreed with in the video. There were definitely also some points I either disagreed with or thought were completely unnecessary for the sake of argument. One thing I wish though was I wish I was a little bit more open-minded about Windows 10. I would feel like I was really biased against it. I mean, obviously, one of the chapters is called Windows 10 is bad. I wish I was a little bit more fair to it. I wish I was a little bit more open-minded. I wish I wasn't as aggressive toward it, if that makes any sense. Anyways, like, subscribe, and thanks for watching, everyone.